Hey everyone, today on People Now, Star Wars leading man John Boyega delivers an emotional speech about racism.
Grey's Anatomy stars Ellen Pompeo and T.R. Knight take a knee during a protest and speak out about what they saw.
Glee star Amber Riley weighing in on the feud between Lea Michele and Samantha Marie Ware.
Somebody said AllStars 5?
Everything you need to know about RuPaul's Drag Race AllStars Season 5.
Initially, there was like this novelty and excitement.
Sexual health expert Dr. Jennifer Berman gives insight on how COVID-19 is affecting sex, dating, and marriage.
All that and more today on People Now. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to People Now. I'm Andrea Boehlke here in Wisconsin. There's a lot to get to today. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yep, there's so much surrounding the continued developments with George Floyd and everything going on with that. Even around the world, we're going to be talking about a lot of that coming up today. Here's what you need to know and what's trending. Meghan Markle delivered a surprise commencement speech to her former Los Angeles high school on Wednesday. She called the killing of George Floyd absolutely devastating. Listen.
George Floyd's life mattered, and Breonna Taylor's life mattered, and Philando Castile's life mattered, and Tamir Rice's life mattered. And so did so many other people whose names we know and whose names we do not know. Stephon Clark, his life mattered. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was 15, and as you know, sophomore year is the year that we do volunteer work, which is a prerequisite for graduating. And I remember my teacher at the time, one of my teachers, Miss Palia, said to me before I was leaving for a day of volunteering, always remember to put others' needs above your own fears.
Meghan also apologized to the students of Immaculate Heart High School over the fact that they, quote, have to grow up in a world where this is still present. But she added that she was excited about what the students will go on to do after graduation, adding, you are ready, we need you, and you are prepared.
Meanwhile, Wendell Pierce, who played Meghan's father on Suits, hit back at New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees for his earlier comments calling NFL players disrespectful for kneeling in protest during the national anthem. Brees has since apologized in an Instagram post, calling his earlier comments insensitive and saying they completely missed the mark on the issues that we're facing right now as a country.
Before Brees issued his apology, Pierce tweeted in part, we won victory over fascism abroad, but we're still fighting racism at home. He added, Drew Brees, my father cheers for you every Sunday. I hope you cheer for him as he takes a knee for the flag he nearly died for.
In an interview posted by Yahoo Sports on Wednesday, Brees was asked about the prospect of players kneeling again to protest police brutality and systemic racism. Brees responded by saying that he would never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country.
Shortly afterward, other sports figures like LeBron James and Aaron Rodgers called Brees out. In a tweet, LeBron referenced Colin Kaepernick, who became a symbol of the Take a Knee protest, writing in part, you literally still don't understand why Cap was kneeling on one knee? LeBron added it had nothing to do with disrespecting the flag or our soldiers. And Aaron Rodgers agreed, writing in an Instagram post of his own, that it has never been about an anthem or a flag.
Star Wars actor John Boyega is getting support after making an emotional speech at a peaceful protest in London Wednesday. It was about how racism affects him every day.
Jordan Peele was among the stars to support Boyega. He responded to a tweet that quoted a line from Boyega's speech where he said he didn't know if he'll have a career after speaking out. Peele simply wrote, we got you, John.
And many from the Star Wars family also supported Boyega, including Mark Hamill, who wrote, never been more proud of you, John, while Star Wars director J.J. Abrams, whose production company partnered with two foundations to commit $10 million to anti-racism organizations, wrote this, you know that as long as I'm allowed to keep working, I'll always be begging to work with you. Deep respect and love, my friend.
The official Star Wars Twitter account also joined in support. The account tweeted a link to Boyega's full speech and praised him, writing, we stand with and support you. And Olivia Wilde tweeted, quote, I would be honored to work with John Boyega and can only hope to have the chance. We've got your back, John. Don't hold back.
During his speech, Boyega encouraged supporters to continue their activism, and in an emotional moment, he told demonstrators, quote, this is very important, this is very vital. And he added, we have always been important, we have always meant something, we have always succeeded regardless, and now is the time.
He also addressed Black men specifically. He said, quote, we need to take care of Black women. They are our hearts. They are our future.
Grey's Anatomy stars Ellen Pompeo and T.R. Knight attended a peaceful protest in Los Angeles Wednesday. Both stars took a knee among the crowds as demonstrators called for justice and accountability in the wake of last week's killing of George Floyd.
Before leaving the demonstration, Pompeo addressed her followers on Instagram Live to share her experience at the protests. She noted that at this peaceful daytime Black Lives Matter assembly, there were heavily armed law enforcement officers everywhere. She says she never noticed that happening at previous demonstrations that she's participated in.
She said, quote, "We're at a march for Black lives, and we're here to talk about the fact that they matter, and there's machine guns, big ones, and aggression. The cops weren't so aggressive, but their stance is aggressive. They're on rooftops, they're in cars, they're in tanks, and I haven't ever seen that show of force." That was her quote.
Pompeo signed off with this message. She said, quote, "I hope you all had a good day. I certainly did. Letting people know that they matter. Love you all."
All right, now an update on a story that we've been following. Glee star Amber Riley is speaking out amid accusations that Lea Michele, quote, tormented their former co-star Samantha Marie Ware. Here's what Amber had to say.
I am not going to say that Lea Michele is racist. That's not what I'm saying. That was the assumption because of what's going on right now in the world, and it happened toward a Black person.
Right.
I'm not going to say that she's racist. She's also pregnant, and I think,
and we don't, because we're classy around here.
Yeah, I think she's pregnant, and I think that everybody needs to kind of chill. Y'all dragged her for a couple of days.
One fan tweeted in response that they stan Amber after she commented on the drama. In that same video, Amber later mentioned that she and Lea haven't spoken in 2 years.
Wednesday night, Samantha Marie Ware seemingly responded to Lea Michele's apology statement, suggesting the actress should take further action. Samantha tweeted a GoFundMe page for James Scurlock, a 22-year-old Black man who was shot and killed in Omaha, Nebraska over the weekend while participating in a protest. Samantha captioned the tweet, perceived, purse, open your purse. This appears to be a callback to the apology statement that Lea shared earlier this week, in which she says in part that she's focusing on, quote, how my own behavior towards fellow cast members was perceived by them.
Former Glee co-star Heather Morris also spoke out about Lea's behavior on set. In a lengthy post on Twitter, Heather wrote about her experience, saying in part, was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe she should be called out. Heather did not comment on whether or not she thinks Lea's behavior was racist.
Lea Michele apologized for her past behavior in a lengthy statement shared exclusively with People on Wednesday. In it, Lea said that while she does not remember making the specific remarks, that's, quote, not really the point. She continues to say, what matters is that I clearly acted in ways which hurt other people. I apologize for my behavior and for any pain which I have caused. Stay with us. We're teasing up RuPaul's Drag Race AllStars Season 5 and taking a look at all of the contestants competing this time around. Plus, is isolation impacting your relationship? Well, we're talking with a doctor who's sharing advice on how to cope with being cooped up with your loved one.
In this week's issue of People, Carson Daly is opening up about his new baby daughter, Goldie, and how he is managing his anxiety disorder during the coronavirus pandemic.
Carson and his wife Siri welcomed Goldie on March 26th, and he tells us that since they knew she was going to be born during a pandemic, they stockpiled diapers and wipes and all their essentials.
Goldie joins Carson and Siri's other 3 kids, Jackson, Etta, and London. And since her arrival, the family has been self-isolating together at their home in New York and partially in LA for 6 weeks, while Carson juggled hosting duties on Today and The Voice.
Focusing on family has been reassuring for Carson, who started having extreme panic attacks at the age of 10. He was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder just 15 years ago, and he tells us, quote, when I get left with too much time, I start overwhelming myself. It's called catastrophic thinking, and I tend to do that.
Another source of comfort has been baby Goldie. Carson tells us, quote, Goldie has been a bright spot. It's fun to be able to wake up and not be like, oh my God, my life's upside down, but to hold the newborn instead.
And for his wife, Siri, she gets self-care in the form of family game nights, baking, and a good night's sleep. The couple decided to sleep in separate beds at the beginning of the pregnancy so Carson's sleep apnea wouldn't disturb his wife. He tells us, then the baby came, and with the feedings every 2 hours and me having to get up for the Today Show at 3 a.m. in LA, we kind of stayed sleep divorced. Yeah, man, I know from experience how difficult it can be when you first have a baby, getting that sleep schedule kind of set. And it sounds like what they're doing is a really, really good solution.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I love that he's so open about all these issues. If you or someone you know needs help with mental health, text STRENGTH to 741-741.
You can always also call the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration's National Helpline. The number for that is 1-800-662-HELP.
Somebody said AllStars 5?
10 fierce queens are back for their redemption.
I'm here to slay and fillet and slice and dice these.
If you're currently binging old seasons of Drag Race, spoiler alert, we're about to break down the AllStars 5 contestants and tell you everything that you need to know about this season and their past performances. Of the 10 contestants competing for $100,000 and a spot in the Drag Race Hall of Fame, only one comes all the way back from the first season in 2009, Angina. Back on season 1, there were only 9 contestants, and Angina made it to 5th place. From season 2 and AllStars 1, Jujubee is competing again for the 3rd time. And speaking of 3s, Jujubee has come in 3rd place both times she's competed.
Another queen who's competing for the 3rd time is Alexis Mateo. She came in 3rd place on season 3, and then when paired up with Yara Sofia on AllStars 1, they came in 5th. Fun fact here, Alexis is the drag mother of Vanessa Vanjie Mateo, who fans loved from seasons 10 and 11.
The second season 3 queen competing is India Farah, who came in 10th out of 13. She is most well known for when Mimi I'm First picked her up, prompting RuPaul to say the iconic line, "Drag is not a contact sport."
And the final queen from season 3 competing is Mariah Paris Balenciaga. She placed 9th on her original season. No queens from seasons 4 through 7 are on this cast. The next is Derek Barry from season 8.
And Derek came in 5th place during that season and is most well known for impersonating Britney Spears.
And from season 9 comes finalist Shea Coulee, who got eliminated during the series' first ever lip sync tournament at the grand finale. Now, Shea was a front runner during her season, winning 4 challenges, so there's a lot of high expectations for her this time around.
The next contestant is Mayhem Miller from season 10. She won the first challenge that season, but ultimately finished 10th out of 15 contestants. Blair St. Clair lasted 1 week longer, finishing in 9th place. A lot was made of Blair's age and youthful appearance on her original season, and in fact, she just turned 25 in May. The last queen competing in AllStars 5 is Ms. Cracker, who got 5th place on season 10.
And when it comes to the show's format this go round, there's a bit of a twist. So for the last 3 All-Star seasons, the judges would choose a bottom 2, and then the top 2 would lip sync for their legacy, and the winner would get to choose which of the bottom queens was eliminated. Now, the winners will compete against a lip sync assassin from a previous season. So if the All-Stars 5 queen wins, she gets to eliminate one of the bottom queens. If the lip sync assassin wins, the eliminated queen is determined by the rest of the All-Stars 5 cast. You got all that?
Guest judges this season include Jane Krakowski, Bibi Rexa, Madison Beer, Tessa Thompson, Sarah Hyland, Nicole Byer, Tommy Dorfman, and in the premiere, Ricky Martin.
Yep, and you guys can watch RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 5 when it premieres Friday, June 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's on VH1.
The coronavirus pandemic is shifting our relationships in many ways, including intimacy, sexual health, dating, and marriage. I got the chance to chat with New York Times bestselling author and one of the nation's leading authorities in the field of female sexual health, Dr. Jennifer Berman. She gave me some insight into how the coronavirus pandemic is impacting our lives, starting with our relationships. Watch this.
When we're forced to be confined in one space, like animals in captivity, for lack of a better term, things start to come unglued. And while initially, there was like this novelty and excitement about it, we're all, off of work and there's this thing going on and we get to be together, over time, that starts to wear thin. And the things that we appreciate and also the things that annoy us and bother us about our partners, become on steroids with a megaphone. So that's sort of the challenge that people are having. And then not being able to go outside, not being able to go to the gym, not being able to go to work. Our prior escape buttons are stripped away from us.
So for those people that are stressed and having a hard time in their relationship and seeing an uptick in tension, what is your biggest piece of advice for them?
First is communication. It's important to be able to communicate your needs in order to get your needs met. And many people don't know how to do that, or they don't even know what their needs are. They're just, I'm feeling uncomfortable. So recognize what your needs, self-care, make time for yourself, separate yourself, go for, set your boundary and also communicate. So boundaries, communication, sharing roles and responsibilities, respect, knocking, sometimes there's a power dynamic in families where one partner is responsible for most of the household duties and the other partner was now everything is upside down, so you have to establish new boundaries, new rules, new guidelines, and communicate those.
Yeah, and you've talked before about how we may see a rise in divorce rates. I mean, what are the major causes here? It's really sad to hear, but I feel like that probably is going to be the way that everything goes.
Yeah, back in the post-war baby boom era, that was entirely different. That was, there was a post-war euphoria. The economy was robust. This is a different time. This is a crisis that is causing deaths. We're in fear, we're not in euphoria. And I think that, the divorce issues are when it used to be that most marriages ended in divorce anyway. And the same reasons that cause divorce when there's not a global pandemic are the reasons, why people are getting divorced under the auspices of a global pandemic. It's just expedited. It's important for couples and individuals to recognize that. So recognize that there's going to be discomfort. Just because there's discomfort, there's arguments, there's conflict, or annoyed, does not mean that your marriage is doomed and it needs, you're spiraling towards divorce. So that's one thing I really want to emphasize, is that there is going to be conflict right now. There is going to be discomfort and fear and unhappiness and maybe even repulsion by our partner right now. But, stay the course, try and keep an open mind, take care of yourselves, and then reassess, when things start to calm down. Don't make any decisions right now.
Many would probably assume that more time inside with your significant other equals more sex. However, Dr. Berman explains why that's not always the case. Plus, she shares some tips on how you and your partner can spice things up.
If you look at it back into, the caveman days, the men went out and hunted, the women stayed home and protected the children and gathered, and then they would come back. So we're used to going apart and coming back. And that's sort of how our brains are wired. For novelty, I hate to say, men seeking novelty, women do too. So when it's familiar, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, our brains reject that as sexually appealing. So it's really important to recognize that. My brain is rejecting it, saying I don't have interest, but we can, once you become aware, oh, this is what's happening, then you have to take action and steps. Okay, novelty is wearing off. I'm exposed to this man or this woman 24 hours a day. I'm feeling that to take steps, take measures, do things. I have couples that are, one of my patients, they went out, and left the kids at home, they went, ordered food, ate it in the car, went and watched the sunset, had sex in the car like they were 16 again. So it's important that you take steps, become more proactive about keeping the intimacy alive, because it is going to wane. It's entirely natural. There's nothing wrong with you if you're experiencing a drop in your libido right now.
Of course, not everyone is coupled up in isolation. With many people alone, some are turning to dating apps to connect with others. Dr. Berman shares both the positive and negative sides to online dating during this time.
It's important that we get out of our comfort zone and that we, sort of try new things. So meeting and engaging and talking and interacting virtually is great. It's great right now just to connect with other people, just to have, options to meet people and talk and exchange ideas and thoughts. So that's one thing. But taking it to the next level is the issue, because online dating usually leads to, let's meet for a drink. And we can't do that. We can't go out, we can't meet, we can't go to a park. So then what do people do? Well, come to my house or I'll go to your house. And that is where the problem lies. Because the issue with this is that you have to know where that person has been, for the 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and where he's going then and where he's going now, when he leaves it, and it's impossible to know all that. So from the standpoint of trust, which takes time, trust is earned, you can't get that, online with an exchange. So while I encourage the dynamic and the communication, the back and forth, the actual meeting, needs to be, from a medical standpoint, still, hold back.
Another thing people are experiencing during this time is disrupted sleep schedules, some even experiencing sleep deprivation. Dr. Berman explains why and shares her top tips for a better night's sleep.
Disruption of sleep is sort of the same thing that happens with the menstrual cycle. Our sleep-wake or circadian rhythms, the biological rhythm of our body, is disrupted under stress. So it's very common to have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, waking up in the middle of the night. And what the same thing that I'm talking about in terms of managing stress is stress reduction. Our sleep hygiene is a reflection, or our sleep ability is a reflection of what's going on during the day. One of the biggest tips that I will say, that's helped me is getting the TV out of my bedroom, not watching the news or, what is that? On Netflix, I watch all these violent sort of things. Don't do any of that before bed, even if it's not, if you're not feeling emotionally activated by it, your subconscious is. So quiet before bed, relaxing, meditating, and trying to set a regular schedule for yourself. Avoiding caffeinated beverages, they say, after 6 p.m., no caffeine, if you really struggle with it. I mean, when you become menopausal or perimenopausal, sleep is a huge problem. Throw stress on top of that, then you become an insomniac.
To keep up with Dr. Jennifer Berman, you can follow her on Instagram and Twitter at JenBermanMD.
All right, coming up tomorrow, Joel McHale is telling us about his new film, Becky.
Plus, Fuller House ended its 5th and final season. The cast is sharing their thoughts on the farewell finale and a message for the fans. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and healthy and be kind, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Bye, guys.